Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I am your host, Carmine of RedTeamReview, and I'm joined here once again by Preston Jacobs. And of course, we're back to discuss House of the Dragon, Episode 7. As always, we are available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider checking us out on those platforms. And if you do, please leave us a review. It would help out a lot. And of course, leave your thoughts down below because we may feature it in the next video. Okay, so Preston, you wanted to discuss a theory that you thought you saw that was confirmed in this latest episode. I did not catch it. You'll have to.
Well, again, this very well may be that I'm just super self-absorbed. But obviously, like so many of my fans, like finished the episode and were like, "Oh my God, Quentin is alive, confirmed." I mean, that's a joke, but like, there's definitely a well, let me explain it from the beginning and like what Quentin is alive is about really quick. And this is kind of similar to Lemongate, like seeing the Lemongate reference, all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute. They might, these people, the writers know about the fan theories with the inclusion of the Lemongate 2 episodes ago. And so the thematically, the whole thing about Quentin being still alive is that many people read A Dance with Dragons and they read the Quentin chapters and they're like, oh, he's dead because we see him alive and he's on fire the last moment we see him in his chapter, and then then a body appears in the Barristan chapters. The prince is dying 3 days. He's 3 days dying. Mm-hmm. As this like corpse who's incredibly burned, and then the corpse dies.
Real quick, by the way, before we continue, for people who, I know there are a lot of non-book readers who listen, for those of you who don't know, in the books, Doran Martell has 3 kids, Trystane, Arianne, and this kid Quentyn. Doran sends Quentyn on a quest to Meereen to meet up with Dany, and she kind of brushes him off. So he hatches a plan to go down and steal one of her dragons, and things end very badly, and he supposedly dies being burned alive by dragonfire.
Right. Now, there's a fan theory that I certainly didn't invent, but I think because I've championed it and had a big video on it, people associate it with me, but I did not invent it. But the idea is that no, Quentin didn't die. And the reasoning is, of course, the body is unrecognizable, and many other things that are kind of wrong about the chapter. I mean, you could go into the many things, but that's a whole nother discussion. I have a video on it. There's a lot of things, but on a larger level, I'm talking like there's a thematic element to Quentin being alive, and that is in the Daenerys chapters at the start of A Dance with Dragons. A shepherd brings in some burnt bones and is sad and demands restitution. And this is in the show too. They put this scene in
season 4, yeah.
Where it's supposedly the body of his daughter, his 4-year-old daughter, who got killed by Drogon. Now, this death in the show simply haunts Daenerys, and that is that. In the book, yes, it haunts Daenerys, but she's also suspicious of it. And she says, burned bones prove nothing in her head. And she says that once in Daenerys 1, and then she thinks about it again as she's feeling guilty about Hosea, is the name of the little girl, Hosea dying. And, so she thinks about burnt bones prove nothing. I think one time she says burned and one time she says burnt, but, like with a T, but nonetheless, burned bones prove nothing, burnt bones prove nothing is how the story begins. Now, so and it is a reference also to the fact that at the same time, Jon is dealing with bringing in wildlings with Stannis, and there is a wildling submission ceremony. And during this wildling submission ceremony, Stannis chooses to burn Mance Rayder in a cage. Now, in the show, they simply just had Mance Rayder die. And he gets burned and shot with some arrows by Jon. But in the show, in the books, Mance Rayder is not dead because he was swapped out for a character called Rattleshirt, and Mance Rayder goes on to have some more adventures, and is quite involved with the at Winterfell with Theon and stealing Jane Poole, who they swapped in for Sansa in the show. So at the same time that Daenerys is thinking that burned bones prove nothing, Jon is dealing with the fact that burned bones prove nothing. And then at the end of A Dance with Dragons, we have these burned bones. And so the question is an unrecognizable corpse any evidence that someone died? No, so like the chapter of Barristan looking at this unrecognizable corpse means nothing. So, you have to look for other evidence of like, well, why else do we think, Quentyn dies? And when you actually like analyze it, there's a lot of problems. Now, maybe Quentyn's alive, maybe Quentyn's dead, but I think George R. Martin just wanted to leave it open. So he created a lot of problems. He created a lot of outs in case he didn't want to paint himself into a corner. So, but nonetheless, generally speaking, this is the thematic, element. Burned bones prove nothing. And so here in this latest episode of House of the Dragon, they kill a random guy who I feel bad for that random guy, and then pretend to kill Laenor, and then throw that guy's body in the fire. And so when they find the body, Corlys and Rhaenys think it's their son Laenor. Pretty horrible move, really. They murder a guy. They all conspire to murder a stranger. Laenor, Daemon, Rhaenyra, and then have Corlys, Rhaenys, Jace, and Luke go through massive trauma thinking that Laenor is dead. It's a pretty brutal, horrible thing to do. I think they're, on a different scale, they're trying to walk back Rhaenyra being evil. Like, oh, we don't want Rhaenyra so evil that she would kill Laenor, but she still kills a random guy and puts all these people through stuff. But
well, there's two ways of looking at it. Either Daemon told Carl to kill Laenor, but instead Carl just tells him about the plan, and they both choose to put on the act and flee. Or Daemon told Carl to tell Laenor the plan, and everyone is in on it. But the impression I got is that Daemon wanted Laenor to die, but instead, out of love and loyalty, Carl just told Laenor about this, and then Laenor was like, okay, let's go through with it so he can have the life he wants.
I mean, you're saying that Rhaenyra actually meant to kill Laenor?
Yes.
And that it's Carl Corey's, like,
it was his decision to, like, use this.
Well, Daemon is clearly in on it, because Daemon's the one that kills the random.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's possible that Daemon did it. I mean, because Daemon fought in the war with Laenor. He likes Laenor. So it's possible that Rhaenyra is super evil and wanted to kill Laenor, and then Daemon just, like, went and killed a random guy in his place and conspired in order to save Laenor. It could have been that. We just don't have enough information. But nonetheless, Rhaenyra's a bad person either way.
Oh, no. Rhaenyra's an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a horrible person either way. I think but nonetheless, I think it's just very funny that they did the burned body swap out. Now, of course, these swap outs are pretty common in A Song of Ice and Fire. We have the Bran and Rickon, like, body swap.
Fake Aegon.
Fake Aegon, the story at the beginning. So there's it's not like there's not plenty of, like, body swaps that where people die and then something else happens, or bodies not found after suicides and murders, Shara Dane missing and things like this. But he does, George R. Martin does a lot of classic movie tropes. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's a coincidence, or do you think that the writers are aware of the fan theories and, like, this is a nod to Quentyn is alive? So
you're basically saying that, I don't see the connection between Quentyn is alive and this whole... I really don't. I'm sorry, homie. I really don't. So you're basically saying that Laenor having a body double and switching up with burned bones...
A burnt, unrecognizable body double is the same situation with Hosea and with Quentyn. and Mance Rayder and Rattleshirt Mance Rayder and all that all happening, being a thematic element of A Dance with Dragons. The burnt bones prove nothing.
I think it's more or less that they are keeping in line with George's writing. We even got a Mayhaps this episode, I believe.
We did.
I think it's them keeping in line with George's writing, which he likes to swap people out all the time. So I think that's mostly what it is. See the Lemongate, I understand. Lemongate, that you had some weight there. Here, I don't know. But
now Lemongate proves that they're paying attention to fan theories. Like if you assume that the writers know about fan theories, don't you think they would have also, if they knew about Lemongate, would they know about Quentyn is alive?
We did a recent podcast. I'm in the middle of putting that out right now, and I'm going to give you the long segment where we talk about the Ryan Condal, Elio, and Linda interview. What did Ryan Condal say about the writing process? Because I remember there was something in the interview about that.
Oh, really? He mentioned something about. Oh, he did say something about it being sort of organic so Elio and Linda asked him about some of the language and the writing process, things like Mayhaps. They specifically asked about Mayhaps and a few other things, and how the language is mimicking the books a bit. They asked if the writers were trying to mimic George's writing, and he said that he thought it was mostly him or the writers trying to mimic him. But he did say that he forced all of the writers to read all of A Song of Ice and Fire. So it could be any of that. It could be any of all the above. But he thought it was like him trying to include that, and then the other writers trying to please and mimic his writing and please him. Though, I don't know. If they were all forced to read A Song of Ice and Fire, you'd think that they would try to be throwing in some of that language.
I don't know. You see, so this is where I actually disagree that some of the writers might be Ice and Fire fans or they read the books. Because when you take Dave and Dan, we discussed this because for those of you who don't know, Preston and I on Patreon have a rewatch series for season 1 of Game of Thrones, and we got up to episode 3. You and I both agreed that Dave and Dan made changes from book to show that actually fit rather coherently and would make sense as a television adaptation. This is something I hear all the time from people behind the scenes whenever they adapt something, and they always say the same thing. Oh yeah, I've been a huge fan of this one thing for the longest time. I always harken back to Paul Giamatti as the Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I remember him giving interviews where he's like, oh yeah, the Rhino has always been my favorite character. No, he hasn't.
You're like, really?
The Rhino, really?
The Rhino. Like, what like in the whole pantheon of Spider-Man's like characters, the Rhino.
Yeah. No, but the reason I bring this up is because I think this is just Ryan Condal trying to reassure the audience that don't worry, our writers they've read the material, they got it going on. But I don't know.
Right. I mean, I suppose I am convinced that Ryan Condal's a big fan, though. I mean, so.
But I don't know if his team of writers, or like, do they even have to be honest? Like, all they have to really do is write competent television. And that's it. Ryan Condal can kind of do the rest and fit all the Ice and Fire stuff in there. But I don't know about that. I don't think the writers are looking at that.
You're saying that this is more of like I was saying, is it honoring, I'm going to ask 2 separate questions, or maybe 3 questions. Like, okay, you don't think it's actually a nod to Quentyn is alive, but you think perhaps it's a nod to the many fake out deaths that are in A Song of Ice and Fire, or is it just a typical Hollywood thing, fake out deaths, and burning a body is just one of the easiest ways to make it unrecognizable? Yes. You think it's the latter. Like it's maybe not even referring to A Song of Ice and Fire. It's just we need to do a fake out death, and a burning is just the way to do it. Is the way to make a body unrecognizable.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Well, it could also be both them doing the usual Hollywood tropes and keeping in line with the stuff George has done in the books. So,
okay, all right.
I was actually, before I got on the live stream, I was actually listening to you talk about burying your gaze.
Oh, burying your gaze. Yeah. Burying, yeah.
Yeah, go into that a bit if you can, for the audience.
Burying your gaze is a trope that a lot of gay people are upset with in movies and books and media, and it's because like gays are often either portrayed as evil, and so you'll have like an evil character who's coded gay or who just is gay, and the character needs to die because the writers either consciously or subconsciously don't like gay people, so they kill them off. And they'll mention things like the villain of the Little Mermaid is clearly coded as a lesbian, and
Ursula,
Ursula, and like or at least coded as a transsexual, because she's supposed to be after Divine, the actress that was in the John Waters movies. And then or like some people say, oh, Scar is like coded gay, or
he is. I didn't catch. You said Scar. Like, Scar's not gay. He's just British. It's a completely. I know, right. It sounds
right. Some people read into this. Like, there might be some reading into it, but like,
what about Gus Fring?
Where, like, the villain of well, Gus Fring is different. That's fairly modern. I think people are pretty happy with portrayal of Gus, but though Gus is eventually killed and is a villain. But yeah, he's another one that dies, even though people like Gus and the portrayal of Gus. But another is the villain in Commando is clearly coded gay. Like there's a lot of these.
Is the villain in Commando clearly coded gay because he looks like one of the village people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty like, at the end he gets impaled like through the body,
let off some steam,
through his crotch, like, and there's this like I mean, there's a lot of like sex references in Commando. Like, I've brought up the whole like how they had to make Arnold Schwarzenegger anti-Boy George at the beginning of the movie. He's like, Boy George, more like Girl George, like to prove that he's not to prove that he's not gay by like being anti anyway. But so the bury your gays thing is like, okay, so the villain is either gay, so he gets killed, or they try to do it the other way, like, the gay guy, he's so pure, and the world is so harsh to gay people that he has to be the martyr. He's got to be the Christ character who gets killed so that the protagonists can feel bad. And so either way, whether they're trying to go super good or super evil with the gay characters always die. So it's the trope is called bury your gays. And so, gay people are just like, can't I just have like a character who's like nuanced in the middle, who lives, who like gets to be part of the cast and goes on, and who isn't just like an object to either be like murdered by the protagonist, or like murdered so that the protagonist can learn a lesson? Like, can't he just be like a character? And so that's kind of the idea with why they don't like it. And so here, Laenor doesn't get buried at the end. He gets to survive, I guess.
He gets to live a very happy life away from all the bullshit. So
Right.
This is a weird decision, by the way, of them keeping him alive, because I do wonder if he will come back later and actually do something. Right. I know you were mentioning Adam of Hull. I don't know. Like, was he going to wear a mask the entire time?
No, I mean, yeah, we talked about this a bit on the stream, but yeah, Adam, it doesn't really make sense that Lenor would leave his dragon behind. They're telepathically linked. So, but I think they're probably just going to ignore it. But other people are like, well, maybe he's secretly Adam of Hull. Well, I guess they could do that. But I think it thematically is fitting that he goes off to live the life Rhaenyra never got to live with Criston Cole,
It's that storybook happy ending, fighting in Essos.
Right.
Historically, people who are exiled and go off to fight in Essos don't really make it back. So we don't really know if that's got really a happy ending. To be continued on that. But I'm sorry, to wrap this up, I think you're reaching here. I love you, I do, but I think you're reaching here. I don't know. I don't. Ryan Condal, yeah, he's read the books. He's an Ice and Fire fan through and through, sure. His writers on the writing team, I don't know. Maybe they watched a couple of Game of Thrones videos. I'll give them that. I'm sure they've seen the entirety of the original series. Sure. Read the books.
Okay, but you don't think Burnt Bones prove nothing, and Quentyn is too far for you?
You know what? I'll give you Lemongate. I can't give you this. Why don't you put up a poll? Put up a poll all over the place on YouTube, on Twitter. See what people think.
I'm sure it'll be pretty low. I'm sure it'll be like,
Normally everyone is on your side because, of course, they're your fans. But I wonder if they'll be on your side here,
or they just think the coincidence is amusing. Like whether they think it or not, but it actually doesn't make. But you pointed out on the stream that the body swap doesn't really work here because, first of all, like I know my son's teeth pretty well. Like I look at my son every day, and like I know his smile, I know his teeth. I would be really. You mentioned his lower body, like only the upper body was thrown in the fire. Like, shouldn't they see that the lower body is somebody else? Like, I know what my son looks like. I know so I feel like I could look at somebody's teeth and be like, that's not my son's teeth. But I don't know. Maybe Corlys and Rhaenys don't know their son's teeth.
I'll have to say this, and once again, this is something Joe Rogan mentioned, and he made a very good point. They have to kind of explain what happened to all the black people going into Game of Thrones, because when we get to Game of Thrones, there's almost no black people in Westeros, and the only ones that are there are from Essos. Here, House of the Dragon, yes, it seems like someone pointed this out in the comments section, and I have to kind of agree with them. During episode 5, during the wedding feast, when House Velaryon comes into the dining hall, almost their entire entourage is all just, black people. But if you've noticed, Laenor and Laena are the only light-skinned people in the entourage. So they would have to find someone that matches Laenor's skin tone, because that's a very specific skin tone.
Right, and the random guy doesn't, but I think there would probably be... See, the thing is, they chose to kill... It wasn't quite a random person. They chose a random guard or somebody in the household, which one creates the problem of, aren't people going to be looking for that guy? But two, like...
That's a good point.
But it's also limiting the pool of people. Like, maybe you don't have a biracial guard. On the Isle of Driftmark, I'm sure there's thousands of biracial people that they could have, like, snagged and killed and done a body swap with, but they didn't do that. They killed a random guard who didn't look biracial.
It's funny. We were talking about Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. What's funny is in Better Call Saul, one of my favorite villains in television history is the Salamanca, Lalo Salamanca, and what he does is to escape, because they send people to kill Lalo. And Lalo escapes the assassination attempt, but he needs his enemies to believe he's dead. So what he does is he goes down to a nearby village, and he's specifically been taking care of this one family, this wife and her husband. And the only reason he was because of the husband really looks like him. Like, really looks like him.
Yeah.
And even took care of the man's teeth to make sure, like, the teeth kind of match up and all that. So... Like they fixed that situation in Better Call Saul.
There's a lot of things to think about. Right? Like, did Lenor have any birthmarks on his body? Because Rhaenys is going to know about those things. Like, or like, was on his feet? Is his big toe the biggest, or is it a second toe the biggest? Because like if they get that wrong. And Rhaenys notices, like, wait a minute.
God forbid he has a birthmark of Dorne on his thigh, because holy shit. Holy shit. You fucked up. For those of you who don't remember, that's how Loras is arrested in, I believe, season 5 of Thrones.
So, I mean, at least with Quentyn, the Quentyn situation, the entire body is burned. And so the entire body is unrecognizable. Plus, it's Barristan. Barristan doesn't know what Quentyn's teeth look like. He doesn't know about birthmarks or anything. He's not familiar with this person. But a mother and father, you're very familiar. You're very familiar with what your kid looks like.
They're going to do an autopsy, I'm sure. And
wouldn't one? Right. And then they'd be like, this isn't Laenor. It's pretty crazy, right? It's pretty nuts.
This bullshit happens because they changed it. For those of you who don't know, in the books, Laenor is actually dead, or so we're led to believe.
Yeah.
According to the Maester, the Maester's writing the story, because
right, and everybody collects for Laenor's funeral, not Laenor's funeral. So it's like there's a swap situation. So there's not a driving need post all of these events for Rhaenyra to marry Daemon illogically.
I do wonder though, like, what is the game plan with keeping Laenor alive? Because that and quite frankly,
I don't think there was any. I think it's just like we're supposed to. I think they're thinking that they didn't want to make Rhaenyra that evil, and that somehow the audience would forgive her killing a stranger versus Laenor in the swap out.
Pretty sure the audience forgave Tyrion killing Shay and Tywin, which you have not.
No.
Or that one time he rapes that one girl, that one prostitute in the books. Yeah. You haven't forgotten that either.
I'm not.
No. But I think the audience, for the most part, has forgotten that.
God, that's just, it's...
They'll forgive it because Laenor is the last morally good character.
Right, but we have no idea who that guard was. That guard could have been a great guy. He had, he's probably got parents and brothers and sisters and people that love him. And they just murdered this guy so that they could use his body unconvincingly as a body double. Like, that's
Or that guard could have been like the Daemon equivalent, where he goes around town and randomly points at people and kills them.
I guess, maybe he's he's a secret Hitler. I don't know, but but look. But they didn't give us that information. That poor guy. This is just one of those, like with the show, like I think about Daenerys killing that random lord. How when she burns that random lord in order to like scare Hisdar. And it's like, well, at least that guy, we weren't sure if that guy was a slaver. He was probably a slaver, so at least we could say he was guilty of being a slaver, maybe.
He could have been a nice slaver.
He could have, But like... But that still bothered me. Like, whoa, she just killed a random dude. Like, that's pretty rough. So yeah, just killing the random guy. That's yeah. I don't have anybody I like. I don't have anybody I like in the show. Helena.
Helena is probably the purest soul in the show right now.
Joffrey Velaryon. I have no problem with Joffrey Velaryon.
Joffrey Velaryon is he's like 2 months old, maybe.
Joffrey Velaryon is my favorite character right now.
Real quick, did you notice towards the very end in High Valyrian, she refers to them as the Greens?
Yeah. She said that she did. Yeah, I do remember that.
Why? That felt random. That felt like randomly thrown in there. Why?
I mean, I would guess that she's just saying it about. It's the only other person that has said like the Greens and the Blacks has been Helena with her gibberish. So it is maybe they just started saying it amongst themselves.
Rhaenyra overheard Helena going, that's a good idea. That's how we should refer to ourselves.
Well, it might be that Rhaenyra came up with the Greens and that Helena, because she has this like weird visions and stuff, that she's seeing like the invention of Rhaenyra's mind. I think in Fire and Blood, Mushroom comes up with it, right?
I don't remember. It's been so long. Wasn't it because I thought it was generally agreed upon, one of those things that's generally agreed upon about everybody, because during one of the parties, Alicent comes out in the green dress, and Rhaenyra has the so. But
I'm trying to think who was the advent of it. Here we go. It was in 111 AC, the Great Tourney was held at King's Landing, the 5th anniversary of the Queen's marriage to the Queen Alicent. The opening feast, the Queen wore a green gown, whilst the princess dressed dramatically in Targaryen red and black. Note was taken, and thereafter it became custom to refer to the Greens and the Blacks when talking about the Queen's party and the party of the princess, respectively. In the tourney itself, the Blacks so it's just he uses passive voice. It became a general thing. They all just decided all at once, the Greens and the Blacks.
Yeah, see? So.
Yeah. So. wasn't even.
Everybody collectively referred to it as, oh, the greens and the blacks. Oh, what do you think? That's a great idea there, Miles.
Right. But, this is Maester Gildain. So, somehow, it seems unlikely that because back in 111, there wasn't even that much of a split yet. So, why would people be, talking about the queen, who would be talking about the Alicent and Rhaenyra as parties being in opposition to each other at that point? It doesn't really make sense, but okay.
No, so what did you think about the episode so far? You enjoyed it?
This episode, I would rank it. I didn't like it as much as episode 4 or 6, and I still think I maybe like the pilot better. I'm not going to say I'm not ranking it as low as, say, episode 5, which is my least favorite. I'm not saying but and some people, I was looking at my comments, a lot of people really liked it. So I thought it had really strong direction, and I thought a lot of the time and care put into that funeral was really well done. But a lot of things in this episode didn't make sense. It dragged at times. I think the Rhaenyra's logic for getting together with Daemon was not there.
It felt like this is the thing I told you privately. Every decision, every weird, awkward pacing thing, everything ever done in the show felt like it was all leading to this moment to get to the last 3 episodes. Episode 8, 9, and 10 are gonna this is the final time skip. We're gonna get an 8. Everything's been leading to this moment. This is when the show really begins. And you made the point, I don't know if you said it on a live stream or in a podcast, but it felt a lot of the episodes we've gotten so far, a lot of it felt like a checklist. And did you feel that the most in this episode?
I think the most in this episode that this was a checklist. We need to get this line in, we need to get this decision made. Even if a decision doesn't make sense, we need it to happen. We need the book material has Rhaenyra and Daemon getting married. We need to have that happen. How are we going to have that happen? And we're going to push characters towards that. Jace and Aemond are going to get in this, and Luke are going to get in this fight. How are we going to get to that point? That's explained even more in the source material, and it still didn't feel like that natural. The conversation where everyone's yelling at each other and throwing out lines here and there, they're all from the source material. I don't know if it really flowed as well. I'm not saying it was a disaster. I'm not saying it was episode 5 disaster, but I wouldn't overall rank it as high as the other episodes, which I thought were stronger. I think this is kind of I'll give this one a 5 or 6 out of 10.
It's such a low score. I would give it a 7 point. I thought it was fairly good. I love the scene with Vhagar and Aemond, him trying to tame her and riding that was pretty cool. I love the funeral stuff. That was great.
Yeah. No, I mean there was some beautiful, well done stuff, but I think with this episode, I feel like the strongest episodes is when there's, for me personally, is when there's a powerful emotional moment in the show where I'm like, oh, that made me feel something.
Give me an example.
Well, the C-section in episode 1.
Okay.
That's such a powerful scene. Or what was the or even in the last episode, Laena going out and dying in childbirth, or and that kind of feeling, or where you really feel and see people's pain and understand what they're going through. And then there's just stuff that's cartoon comical, what's going on, Daemon and his war, or Kristen Cole beating to death somebody. You
didn't feel anything when Viserys told Alicent he never thought he'd remarry?
But even that episode, like there was definitely some scenes where like I felt like emotion, like when they see the White Hart and then she goes back into town covered in blood and everyone's kind of staring at her, like I really did like feel the emotion of that scene. Oh man, that's crazy. Or like Harwin dying, like oh god, like there are these gut wrenching like moments, even when I know them, or like, oh, Laurie Strong, like explaining things to Alicent at the end of last episode, like, like anything that like ties my stomach in knots and makes me feel something, where I'm just like, oh man, that's so brutal and such a great scene. And then there's other times where things just miss, like Kristen beating to death Laenor, where I'm just like, oh, that's gross and that makes no sense. This episode was closer to that, where like, yeah, like it's a little gross that boy had his eye sliced out, but he's also not acting like a boy who had his eye sliced out.
Yeah, I mean...
So I'm like, so it's like all of a sudden I'm taken out of it because that's not how a kid would act.
Well, that's how some kids. I can't rule that out. Some kids are just weird and creepy and emo. So for me, the best scenes in this episode was the tense confrontation in the Hall of the Nine, and Lenor confessing to Rhaenyra that he should be a better father and he should strive to be better. I love that. My man Lenor, good guy Lenor. I'm glad he had a happy ending.
Well. Except that he might have been on the conspiracy to murder a random person. But,
you gotta let that go, Brett. You gotta let that go.
I'm not letting that go.
That guy could have been the next Hitler. You don't know.
He may have been a really nice guy. We don't know. He could have been like the best person in Westeros.
By the way, your boy Laris, he didn't have much to do this episode, but I love how
they gave him that random charity scene there. I'm still here.
This is another thing I'm going to confront you on. How is he blood and cheese if he's so devoted to Alicent? Or are you saying this is all facade?
All facade is my
all
theory,
facade
yeah.
for
all facade, creating chaos. Creating chaos for. I mean, I think he's in on the conspiracy, but if he's not in on the conspiracy, he's just like a Littlefinger chaos character.
Chaos is a ladder, so he wants to climb the ladder while everybody's fighting.
Yeah. It's either, that's my second guess. My first guess is he wants to kill dragons. He's in on the conspiracy. My second guess is that he's a Littlefinger in it for himself kind of character.
Someone in your comment section made the best comparison of what Laris is, because I said in our podcast with Amber, I said he's a psycho. Someone said no, he's not a psycho. He's just a CK2 Game of Thrones mod player, killing your dad and your brother to secure certain allegiances and become lord and stuff. 110%. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I saw the jokes like because people are like, "What's CK? Crusader Kings?" And people are like, "Do you mean Louis CK?" And then somebody's like, "I'm going to." He's like, "I'm going to be." Then people are like, "I'm going to be referring to all CK players as Louis CK players, Louis CK2 players from now on." Like it doesn't.
By the way, shout out to my boy Joker. He had a phenomenal way of describing the season so far. And he goes, he hit me up privately. He goes, I figured out House of the Dragon's problem. The entire season so far feels like one overly long previously on touching all the major plot points before getting to the next episode.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You're so right.
So
oh my God.
Yeah.
That is really, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with him. And quite frankly, yeah, like I do have a guy who has seen, the season, and he even he said it, like episodes 8, 9, and 10 really feel like when the season really begins, and episodes 2 to 6 to 7 even kind of feels like a very long segment of last time on House of the Dragon. So
yeah. Oh my God. But it's just like we don't feel that the show is settled in anywhere. I don't feel that the show has gotten its sea legs or whatever they say. Like I just feel like this is the amount of stuff that happens needs to be an entire season. Like this should have been like we should be on season 2 at this.
This is something I said in my review. Like coherently, Game of Thrones season 1 pacing was fine. It was great. There were some minor issues I had, but for the most part, everything moved at a fine pace. Here, you can tell that this is a history book and that the showrunners are episode 1, get these pages in. Episode 2, get these pages in.
Checklist. They're really scared. It's amazing how they're scared to cut stuff. Like, they're scared to cut stuff. Just cut stuff. Like, you don't need to have every single thing in. And the things I guess they cut Mushroom and Septon Eustace. But it's okay. It's okay not to have every single line in there, If a line is stupid, like George makes mistakes. If a line is stupid, don't include it. Like,
it almost feels like George is like in the writer's room, and he's like right over Ryan Condal's shoulder. Oh yeah, make sure to get that one in there where he says mayhaps. Get that in there. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean George himself, retcons and changes stuff. So I mean, they do change. They do change a bit. I mean, having Laenor live is pretty. I mean, I guess it's another lost Targaryen kind of, right? Or I mean, he's Velaryon, but nonetheless, it's another lost Targaryen off in Essos.
What's he gonna do? Fucking have like 42 kids? Like what's gonna happen there?
I guess. I mean, I guess you're right that it's harder for him to have kids because he just doesn't like having sex with women. But
I curse the gods for making you this way, bro. Don't say that. Come on, stick to who you are. Stick to your truth. It's okay. Before we wrap this up, I love Daemon. Daemon is, and someone mentioned this in the live stream. Daemon is such a bad father. When Alicent goes towards Rhaenyra with a knife, for a minute it looked like Alicent was going towards one of the younger boys with a knife, and then Rhaenyra steps in front of her. But Daemon does not even try to remotely comfort his daughters, because Aemon also beat up his daughters as well. Daemon does not even once does he go over there and say, "Hey, you guys okay? What's going on here? You guys all right?"
Yeah.
And what is this? What is this fascination that they have with trying to make him such an asshole every time? Because remember, last episode they cut the scene of him hugging his daughters.
Right. Yeah. They're like, no, that's too far. Let's not do it. I also did you feel he was flirting a little bit with Carl Corey?
Yeah, he got very close. He was very close. I wonder if there's like a blooper reel of how close they are, and
no.
He just kisses him on the on the nose.
I heard about your reputation in the Stepstones. What do you mean by that? What reputation? Which one?
Oh, that's right. They also cut the scene of him supposedly flirting or hooking up with the Pentoshi waiter.
Hooking up with the guy, Pentoshi waiter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
what is with these weird cuts? Why are we getting so many weird fucking cuts?
This was a shorter episode, so they actually had a little more time to do stuff.
And I'm wondering what the fuck else they cut, because they're I don't know. Now I feel like there are scenes that are randomly cut for no reason, because I don't know. And
have you ever seen the other Anchorman movie?
No, I have not.
So there is another completely other Anchorman movie. Which is made of just cutscenes, and it's enough cutscenes to make an entire movie, and it's this entire B plot that is just not funny. So this other Anchorman movie, you can watch it, but it's not really very good. And there's a reason that all of these scenes were cut, but it's just kind of funny that they were able to make an entire other movie with the cut material. In fact, I think they did that with the Three Musketeers. I think the Three Musketeers became the four. They did a sequel called the Four Musketeers, and it was just done with cutting room floor material. Yeah. I swear, I may, and this may be a rumor that I heard about, but I heard that the Four Musketeers movie. I'm going to look this up.
There's no extended edition for these movies like with Lord of the Rings.
I mean, not back then.
And I'll say this, look, man, I'm paying for this fucking thing. I'm actually paying for HBO now to watch it with you guys, because I can't download this fast enough. I'm pirating websites to keep up with the whole thing. I'm on HBO with you guys. I'm paying for this shit.
So this is it. It says, during the production of The Three Musketeers, the producers realized that the project was so lengthy that they would not be able to complete it as initially intended, as a roadshow epic with an intermission. and still achieve their announced release date. The decision was there before to split the project into 2 films. Oh, I see. So this is a little different, where they pulled a Hobbit, where they cut one, they just cut it in half. But the lawsuits were filed. But with Anchorman, the Legend of Ron Burgundy, I forget. I think the other one's called Wake Up Ron Burgundy. Yeah, Wake Up Ron Burgundy, the lost movie. It's an entire other parallel movie.
I'll have to look this up.
To Anchorman, and it's just it's. I mean, it's not good. Like it's because there's a reason why all these scenes were cut. They were like, but certain, like it does, like if you actually have them together, you're like, oh right, that transition from that scene to that scene in Anchorman doesn't make sense, and it's because this B plot was cut. There's like a terrorist cell that like Ron Burgundy is like trying to stop. It's really, yeah. No, seriously, like
a terrorist cell.
Yeah.
I gotta see this now. I gotta download
this. It's called Wake Up Ron Burgundy. Yeah, it's not, like I said, but it's not good. Like I've watched it, it's not good. You understand each time, like each scene, you're like, yeah, that wasn't that funny, and I understand why it was cut. But it's an entire other movie of material. But yeah, I feel like they could be doing that with House of the Dragon.
Why the fuck? I'm paying for this. Why are we like? There should be no cutscenes. Same with any show coming out now. Everything should be in there. Fuck it. Why not? Right? Why not? Why? Yeah. What's the point? Like, I understand cutting Alicent and Viserys' wedding, but I don't understand cutting Daemon hugging his kids. I don't understand Alice.
Yeah. What's funny is like imagine they do an entire like extended thing, and it's just like, and the plot is like nonsensical. It's like we go straight from Alicent's wedding to Daemon hooking up with a dude to like, and you're like, wait, how are these scenes connected? Yeah, well,
they'll just be deleted scenes, which okay, it's fine. But I argue we shouldn't even have deleted scenes. Just put everything in there. Fuck it. If anything, lore fans are eating very nicely. So, but no, Daemon, such a bad dad. He kind of low key forces his kids to watch his satanic Valyrian wedding to their aunt.
Oh my god, yeah, just cutting their hand. They always do that, like that thing on TV where everybody cuts their hands so deep. Like, who does that? That's just, oh my god, like that would take forever to heal.
And the Valyrian wedding is the first time we've seen that.
Cutting
in
their
the books,
lips, right? And stuff, and I think so. I'm trying to remember the only Valyrian. I'm trying to think of like Valyrian ceremonies. I think there's a reference to a crowning of Maegor in a Valyrian ceremony. Maybe, or something. I'm trying to remember if there's anything with I'm gonna see if I can find anything. Swift ceremony, storms in to attend the ceremony. I'm trying to think if there's any sort of Valyrian kind of stuff. I guess I don't see anything that was done in kind of Valyrian fashion that going through here. Maybe someone will correct us on that, but like I don't know if there's ever been any sort of like Valyrian ceremonies in anything. I was gonna say maybe Visenya like crowning Maegor the Cruel in like but even that, I don't know if I don't think it was anything very Valyrian about it. Maybe it's just that she crowned him. But that's, yeah. Huh. I don't know.
But no, the episode, you're right. It was fairly short, but I'm okay with that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would give it like a 7.5. It was good. It was good. I liked it. The next one looks like, once again, I think it's the final time skip. Some people were complaining how Aemon is taller than Aegon, so how is that possible? Like, some kids shoot the fuck up going through puberty, so yeah. But none of them look like each other. Jace and Luke look like, they're child actors. Aegon, Aemon, and Helena do not look at all like their counterparts. At all. Their younger counterparts.
Okay. I found it. The only thing that's listed is that the Valyrian wedding ceremony are occasionally performed by members of the house. I don't know who is performing it here. And little details of the rite are known except that the participants are wed by fire and blood. That's all there is written.
That's very generic.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So do you have any lasting any closing thoughts on the episode? Like I said, I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice 7.5.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we may do another discussion during the week. I mean, I think during my rewatch, I'll probably have some more things to say. This is just kind of first impressions on this one, but you know, once I get into it a little bit, I'll probably have some other ideas, some other thoughts on it, because there's a lot, there's a lot there.
Do you mind if we wrap it up here?
Sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.